Hey, back with another victim. But before we get to her, Mike, don't you have some things coming out soon? I know you got Private American people are supposed
Yeah,
to.
Private Americans in shops this week, in fact, from Antarctic Press.
Cool.
As you all know, Private American was a book I wrote to show what Marvel should be doing with the Punisher today if they had any sense. And it ignited fury in certain quarters, but everybody who's read it has loved it. And in fact, I've written a second one, which is even better, but that's a long ways off because my pipeline is jammed. Also, Tenure 2 has been announced. You can find it on Amazon. This is a book I write with Blaine Pardo. Tenure 1 is a huge hit. And it's about a Portland University professor who teaches history who refuses to use a student's preferred pronoun and how it destroys his life until he hits rock bottom and decides to strike back.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh, see, Mike's got bunches of stuff going on. And you can always find, you definitely follow him on social media. You can always find a lot of his stuff at baroncomics.com. I have things coming out too, but I don't want to jinx anything, so I'm not gonna. No, because they're very big. No. I'm. Yeah, they're too big for me to say, but we'll see. Hopefully, leave it in God's hands. See what happens.
All right.
Do you want to introduce Laurie, or do you want her to go play something on the piano behind her?
Well, Elton John was going to come later, but you know.
Oh, nice.
Do you play?
I do play, but that's not a real piano.
Yeah. It's a fake image.
Yeah, a fake piano.
Well, we're here because Laurie's launching a Kickstarter for her book Path of the Pale Rider. Why don't you tell us what the story's about?
Oh, okay. Well, Path of the Pale Rider is a Western apocalypse series where death is broken. So your body can die, but your soul or your energy, it just doesn't leave your body upon death. So you're stuck in it as you decay. So we don't have, yes and no. Like they're not flesh-eating zombies. They're not trying to eat anybody. You're just you. But as you decay, your brain is rotting. You go through like dementia. So you lose your memories, you get chaotic, you might get violent. And so the world falls apart very quickly. It's not just people, it's animals, insects, and fish. Death is broken. There's no bullet to the brain. There's no put them out of their misery. You're stuck. So things evolve back to the Wild West. And we're following a cowboy who's like the last guy that's determined to figure out what happened and to see if he can put things right. So,
can these people who have died, can they feel things?
Yes.
So to incinerate them would be very painful.
Yes. No, you can't. I mean, you can do that, but that it also has consequences. Like how we tied that in there. There are consequences. So
she looks so nice too, but.
Me? Yeah, I know. It's deceiving. I'm like, I do martial arts. Like I carry knives. It's fun. So I just look.
When did you start doing martial arts?
That was back in 1997. It's been 28 years that I've been training. I still train. In Filipino martial arts, I practice Kalis Ilustrisimo. It's a weapon art, bladed art. And my teacher is Guru Vico Perrine. He's out on the East Coast, and whenever he's in Dallas area, I make sure to see him, but we train like via Skype pretty much.
Right.
But I'm always looking for training partners. And I was just on a podcast last night that was martial art related. So I can do both. I can talk martial arts and I can talk comics.
Is there any martial arts in your comic, graphic novel, whatever you're?
It's coming. So my main character is he's a brawler. He's your average Joe. He's flawed. And he gets in like saloon brawls and he'll do fun stuff that like the fights are interesting. But he is not what I would call a skilled martial artist. But there is a character that's coming, that she's coming in issue 8. And she is very skilled. And so
Nice.
you will see some amazing fights, gun disarms, lots of bladed work. She's a very skilled practitioner. So keep coming.
You're choreographing these fights, right?
Yes, of course. In fact, the saloon brawl that's in issue 2, I was teaching at a Brazilian jiu-jitsu school that was close by, and the instructor there and we choreographed it and we acted it out. We filmed it.
Oh, cool.
We sent that to my artist, like, this is what we're trying to communicate with camera angles and everything. And of course, it's like when you're trying to take a elaborate fight and put it into a comic, you really can't. We can't have, but you got to pick out like the most elaborate moves, the most expressive, and then those are what translate to the page. It would be great.
Nice.
Animated, that would be fun.
So did you guys? So did you do it in slow motion or something, or did you actually strike poses, or when you were filming the fight?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not slow motion. No,
Just regular? Okay.
We did our camera angles, but I mean, it was just the two of us. So like, he would act out the move that I was trying to communicate to the artist, and like, I would set up the tripod if we were both in the shot, stuff like that. But
nice.
Yeah, it's funny. I would love to do more of that.
You said you can't choreograph the fights elaborately.
I mean, you can.
You can.
You can. It just depends. I don't want to bog down the story with too much. You know what I mean?
You know, you can use a fight to characterize a character, and I often do that. I'll show you what I mean.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Also, I love doing elaborate fights that are elaborately choreographed. That's kind of my thing. It's one of the reasons I got into comics, because I kept picking up issues of Master of Kung Fu, reading them and saying, "Where are the martial arts? I don't see any Kung Fu."
Yeah,
because there was no
the magazine Kung Fu. There's like a martial arts magazine that's just like they interview martial artists, and I've been to so many martial arts schools where those just paper the walls of the changing room.
Yeah, well, he did use a bunch of those and clip out pictures from the magazines to send his artists to say, this is the way I want you to.
I'll draw them. I'll draw them if I have to. I used to write comics by drawing each page out by hand. I did that for 25 years, and I'll do it again if the artist needs to understand something. I'm not the greatest artist in the world, but I'm good enough that you can see what I'm drawing.
I do the same when it's like certain things. And again, with martial arts, you have certain terminology. Like I'm saying, oh, it's a backhand speed punch, and then he's going to parry, and then he's going to wrist hack. And my artist is like, that's Greek to me. So then you're like, okay, he's going to block like this. He's going to parry over and then stab in through the bones. So sometimes you just have to use your stick figures and communicate.
Yeah.
Me drawing stick figures.
That's good. That's cool though. Yeah. And I know a lot of people that are into martial arts that do get disappointed when they see martial arts portrayed incorrectly. So,
which is all the time.
It is. And I mean, like I get it, because I choreographed fight scenes for production companies in Detroit for a while. And you can only do what you can do with the talent sometimes. They just don't. Like, you can tell if they're a dancer. You can tell if they're a skilled martial art. Like Wesley Snipes, you can tell he's doing the moves. Right. And then if you watch, I forget her name, that was in the Tron movie, and she had a stick fight. And it takes you out of the movie where you're like, that is just so wrong. And so it's like for that 1 second where it's just like, okay, I'm out. You're out of the story. Yeah. Because the moves are so bad. So I love a good martial art film. I'd watch that any day,
What are your favorite martial arts films?
Oh, gosh. I love Tony Jaa movies. I love, old school Jackie Chan, or like Drunken Master movies, old school Jet Li movies, really anything. I mean, if you can find old school Chuck Norris, those are fun too. You got to love Bruce Lee. Enter the Dragon. That's a classic. There's a ton out there. Even if you go to some of these newer guys that like are B actors, like Michael J. White, and there's good stuff out there if you just go watch the choreography. Obviously, the newer ones that people like are the John Wick films. Those I
Right.
love because that whole studio was put together by stuntmen.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was like Keanu Reeves stuntman is the one that, and then another stuntman are the two guys that run that studio. And so John Wick has the most skilled
Yeah.
stunt people, in these movies, like Heidi Moneymaker, and just amazing. They train for months. Keanu really does all the gun work on all the gunplay, which is super cool. And so I nerd out over those movies for sure.
Have you seen the Ip Man movie starring Donnie Yen?
Yeah, the first ones were good, and then they got into like 3 and 4. The martial arts are good, but the story is just like, what are we doing? Like, at this point, guys. I think you could get better writers. Mike, we should write It Man, don't you
Yeah.
think?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. So how did you get into writing and stuff like that?
I was late to the game. So when I was choreographing martial arts for the production company, they're always looking for new material, and they were in the process of having like a YouTube channel, kind of like what the Madness does, where they would have a bunch of running shows, short form web content, and then everybody would jump to the same place and share views. So I wrote a series for them called The Agency, which again was very heavy martial arts, spy versus spy, lots of twist traders, espionage, people running up walls, that kind of stuff. Very entertaining. And I really, that's where I got bit with the writing bug. So that's kind of my in there. And that was 2017. And I had the idea for Path of the Pale Rider in 2018. And so I wrote that as a full-length movie. It's a movie script. And didn't know what to do with it. I was being told to pitch it to Netflix. I wasn't prepared to go that route. Didn't think it would go anywhere. And even if it did, they'd be like, here's your $500, kid, get out of here. You're bothering me,
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, right? Well, I didn't have even an audience built. So they probably wouldn't have even looked at my script. And I was aware of that. So it's just like, well, what else can I do with my story? And it was my husband who was into comics. I was more into graphic novels. We were both reading Image, but first thing that I read that really got me into reading graphic media was Who Watches the Watchmen. So that's kind of what you're going to see from me, is these flawed characters and the villains have a purpose. And that to me is more interesting than any kind of legacy media where we're rebooting. And in my opinion, that's me.
Yeah.
So I had this script, and my husband was like, you should check out, Kickstarter that can help you get funded and make these things. And then I had to learn that. And we were first published in July of 2022 for the story Path of the Pale Rider. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Going since then.
Very cool. And I think I read or heard that you had, I don't know if you already said this, but didn't you had a full screenplay written for it?
Yeah, it's been the screenplay for the first arc. I broke up into 12, and that's been finished since the beginning of 2019. So 2008, 2019, working script, and it was okay, we developed this in comic. So keep that in mind, because when you start getting into the story and you're going to see things that remind you of the pandemic, I'm sorry, it's not my fault. I didn't start the pandemic. Don't blame me. Don't come for me.
Why does everybody have masks on in her story?
It's not. It's similar but different. Where because the undead becomes so chaotic, the government steps in. They start like stripping away rights. So it's like everybody has a curfew. You can no longer own property as undead. You can no longer drive, own a firearm. Oh, and by the way, everybody has to start wearing these devices called a disc that will tell us if you're your status of living or not, because it monitors the heartbeat.
That's a good idea. We should all read those. There are so many science fiction novels that predicted the pandemic that came out before, like John Ringo's series Black Tide Rising. Was about a zombie virus that spreads throughout the world and almost destroys civilization, and that came out like 8 years before the pandemic.
And I don't know. I don't know if I was seeing patterns or just looking at history, the things that people are capable of doing to other people. So you're going to see, in the story, there's a big flashlight pointed at humanity. You see the good and you see the bad. And I never give people an answer of how they should approach the undead, because it depends on their own personal experience. So if it's your mom and she's at home and she just wants to knit in the corner and she's not dangerous, why should she be removed from a living community and sent to God knows where? You know, we in the story, we have a police force called the Collectors. And at some point, the government deems that the undead are too chaotic and a risk that they start removing them from living communities. So it's illegal to become it's illegal, right, to be undead.
Yeah.
So they collect you whether you're 5 or you're 95. They just come and they take you to the undead retirement community.
Yeah.
You don't know what that is because once they send you there, no one sees you again. So, but again, there could be undead in the street just running people over with their car because they don't care anymore. Or,
Right.
depending on, they have a brain injury and that's what kills them and they can't regulate emotion. So they're out there on a killing spree, but they can't control it. So it's a powder keg world. It's not just the people, but the animals. Then we now have a food shortage.
Right.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm not eating a hamburger if it's still moving.
Yeah.
Take me out. I'm not doing it. And people are like, okay, well, we all become vegetarian. And I was like, well, the pesticides don't work anymore because we have undead bugs that continue to eat crops because they're too stupid to know that they don't have to eat anymore.
So you can probably spot the undead by looking at them, right?
Yes, until they cover up, and they might do something like combine makeup and chemicals so they can pass as living for longer. And of course, these discs that everybody wears are government issues. So we're really good at hacking government issued everything. And so you might have undead that can pass longer than others, depending on their status. But again, what happens when the undead now outnumber the living? Do you have to pass anymore? What are our standards of beauty? Everything changes when the shift happens. So it's a big cultural experiment in my book.
Nice. It sounds more like a TV series than a movie.
I think it could very easily be a TV series as well, just because I broke it up into issues. And so it could be, season 1, Path of the Pill Rider on Netflix with 12 episodes. It would work really well that way too.
That's cool. So are you breaking it up in the graphic novel that way? Do you have like any dividers or just straight through?
In the
Are you doing?
I have a trade, and we're breaking it up into every 4 issues, which makes sense because that's how I broke it up. Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 of the movie, right?
Right.
And so Act 1 is issues 1 through 4. It's meet your protagonist, world building, understanding the trauma behind him and what puts him out into the world. And then where we are now, we're in 5 and we're in issue 6 in production. It's like, okay, you understand the world, how it works, and your protagonist. Now we're gonna raise the stakes. Everything goes wrong, and then your protagonist is now on a new mission. So it's a great spot in the story right now. I'm so excited where we are. And then of course, 9, 10, 11, 12 will wrap up, answer some questions, but then we're off into the next arc. So issues 1 through 4 are collected. It's 148 pages. I do have dividers in there, but it's minor. And so every issue that we produce starts with a journal entry. So our protagonist is writing to you about what was going on at that time. And so that's kind of like the start of the new issue.
When you turn the page, it's all, that's right. Did Marco do the interiors?
This one is Marco DeFio, the interiors. He got too busy to continue doing Path. So issue 5 starts Gilbert Perez. And Gilbert loves Path of the... I don't think I'll be able to get rid of him if I tried. He's there.
Don't try.
That's good.
Right. And I'm like, you have to stay forever. He's like, okay.
especially when you're in that far into the story and stuff, then it's good to still be excited. That's what a lot of people that are first getting into writing and doing different things don't realize. It's like you need that passion and excitement to carry you through all the way, because it can get tiring and
But I've been hanging on to secrets. Now this is my 3rd year, in production since writing the story in 2018. I have secrets, and we're getting to the part where some of the things are
Right.
answered, and you see like these big moments. So that's what's like really invigorating for me. It's like, all right, now we're to the meat and potato. We're to the good stuff. So not that the rest of it isn't good, but it's necessary chaos in order to build up to where we are now.
Right. Did you did you learn a lot like writing wise or storytelling wise from being on production stuff too? Like, did you take any tips from that stuff, or was that mainly choreography focused?
That time was very short. It was choreography
Right.
and then production of the agency. I was reading a lot of screenplays and learning, screenplay writing, stuff like that for movies. Understanding Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, how to develop characters. I'm a plotter, not a pantser. And so I'll usually start at the beginning and then write the end and then develop the character so we can get to the end. That's kind of what I found works for me. But yeah, a lot of the study I did was in screenplay. But I find that it very easily translates to comics because you understand not only are you writing a big arc, you're writing, like 4-issue arcs. So it's Act 1, Act 2, but then you're also making sure that you have all those good story elements in each issue. So character development, some kind of action, furthering the story, and then leave them on a cliffhanger so they want to come back for the next one. So I'm trying to get that into every issue, So
yeah. And just the whole just that everything's broken up into panels and pages and everything.
Yes.
It is
I
very
have to learn
cinematic.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have some big cinematic moments that translate great to the page, but still, when you think about it, there's still elements that are missing, like sound. I have some big moments that it's like we're trying our best to communicate how quiet or how loud it is.
You can do that visually.
Yeah, and I do. I try to as best I can, but there's still, you know what I mean? Watching it on screen or seeing it animated versus on the page, you have to rely on the reader to fill in the blanks with their imagination. And I mean, we do that visually with a lot of the SFX and understanding the scope of the page. But I did have to learn that comic book writing method where it's like page 1, panel 1, the detailed description of what's going on with the action and then the dialogue. And I think it came pretty naturally. I didn't have a hard time with it, but it was just like, I've never done this before.
Yeah. Once you get into it, especially when you're thinking of when you have the 2 pages open, and it's kind of like, where do you begin? Where do you start?
Yeah. Where do the pages turn?
Right. Because those are,
That's why I urge all would-be comic creators to start by drawing the page out by hand themselves, whether they can draw or not, because you learn instantly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I don't know if I have any in mind that people can see. I have done that. They're pretty terrible.
Well, if you find any, you can send them to me, and I'll
I'm not sending it. That's great, but I mean, yes, that it's important to understand what the artist is trying to do, right? To understand their method, to be able to communicate effectively what your expectation is for the page.
Yeah. It seems like you're working with pretty good artists too. So I know sometimes it's good to play to the strengths, of certain artists, and kind of avoid some of their weaknesses, if you can. But both of those guys are pretty well-rounded, I think, from what I've seen of their stuff. So that's a big plus as a storyteller.
Thank you. And I really enjoyed Marco's style. He and I are still friends. He just got busy, so like you'll see variant covers from Marco, in our series from time to time when his time allows.
Cool.
And Gilbert's great. Like Gilbert did something really funny in issue 5. And usually I encourage them to be creative. They might do something that's maybe a little different than what I put on the page. And if it's better, great, let's go with it.
Yeah.
He drew a puppy into a really difficult scene. And I made him kill the puppy at the end of the scene, and he was unhappy. He was regretted his choice of adding this puppy.
You couldn't. I was like, you couldn't make it a undead puppy.
It is. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So it's like that small change that he made now has repercussions because I put a picture of this puppy in my little fan group, and they
Yeah.
named the puppy. So the puppy's name is Sad Pancake, and there's a
Oh,
Sad Pancake variant cover for issue number 6. It's
oh,
funny.
that's
I was like,
funny.
that's what happens
It's like,
sometimes.
yeah, she's like, do that again.
I was like, that's fine, but you have to kill the puppy. And he was like, what?
That's
read the room. That's what's
yeah,
going on here.
yeah. So, I do have a question about the. So, with their brains, are their brains not decaying, or are they decaying slower than their bodies, or something?
It depends on the person, and it
Oh,
depends on how they die. They do rot. Some of them rot quicker than others, but just just like how we address physical ailments in our body, like I take cholesterol medicine, so
right.
that's why I'm saying like they might take chemicals, they might
Uh,
self-embalm, they might find a way to
self
extend
embalm. That sounds great.
self-embalming. It's great.
Yeah,
Um where it might extend their time in their body a little bit longer. But yeah, when they're undead, they're warped. Even if you think they're thinking clearly,
yeah.
they're not. They're not. They are rotting, and a lot of times they're volatile.
Well, that would lead to a lot of mistaken assumptions about whether people are dead or not.
It could
Yeah.
be that someone asked me a really crazy question. They're like, "What if they're undead but they have a pacemaker?"
What if
And I
they're
was
not
like,
undead and they're just stupid?
Yeah.
I mean, there could be that too.
Yeah.
Hungry people don't make good choices either. So there's a lot of just
Yeah.
people being people in this world, just like we have in our world. It's like people are like, you don't have flesh-eating zombies, do you? And I was like, well, is cannibalism a real thing in this world?
Yeah.
So you could.
Yeah.
I don't know. It depends. It depends on the world. So it's quite varied, and you're gonna see a lot of different versions of the undead. We have a character coming that's just a head, and they carry him around, and he's quite
Yeah.
funny.
Those, man,
So
there are
spooky.
there's a couple comics and like animes and stuff that have things like that, and it's it is pretty funny. It's pretty interesting when you have characters like that.
It makes it interesting because they toss him around like a beach ball when they get mad at him.
Yeah. So does your husband give you any weird looks because of like the sick stuff that you?
all the time. But I'm very blessed that my husband's very supportive.
Yeah.
He encourages me obviously on my journey. He's a part of some of the other things that we do because we have a comic, but we also do like riddles and short films. So he a lot of times is on camera. You should hear some of the conversations that we've had planning out some of these things where I'm like, hey, I need you to run me over with a car in my next video. What do you,
Yeah.
can we do that this weekend? And he was like, sure. He's like, I can run you over with the car. That's fine. We'll go to the back of the sub and we'll plan it out. You know what I mean? Like I'll bring the tripod and yeah. So
Yeah.
he's a part of all of it. He thinks it's funny.
I'd like to know, in all seriousness, I'd like to know how many writers have been followed by the NSA because of things that they're researching
I worry
online.
about that too.
I'm sure I have someone assigned to me. At some point I was researching what gas is flammable but smells sweet. And I'm sure like right there I was like, hello, NSA.
If I can make a recommendation, use swisscows.com as your search engine.
Ooh.
Oh.
I've never heard of that one.
I know a few people have swisscows.com. They make DuckDuckGo seem like Google.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Well, yeah,
Check that out.
I'm not sure that there's much a difference with DuckDuckGo now, unfortunately. But
I always were like, hi, NSA writer or analyst. I'm like, I'm a writer. Please don't, show up at my house.
Yeah,
I've said that, in my queries.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially, you deal with anything with like murders or blowing things up. It's because that they've got to have something that just sets alarms off.
Oh, I'm sure. Like flammable gas, that one I'm sure did. I was also researching deep brain electrical stimulation, where they put like electrical nodes into your brain to stimulate different memories and how different emotional memories are kept in different parts of your brain. Super
Right.
interesting. But I'm like, hello, NSA. I'm not doing Frankenstein experiments in my house, please. It's just for my comic.
Yeah, yeah. Well, honestly, that's one of the good things about having a presence online where people do know that you're a writer and things like that, because then when they can look it up, they'll be okay.
Okay, yeah. She's not actually doing these things to people in her garage.
Do you know that Mary Shelley was 20 years old when she wrote Frankenstein?
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. That's crazy. I did read up a lot on that when I was like, oh my gosh, man, this stuff.
Yeah. Talk about before your time. And
She was so detailed and everything too, and
mhm.
I was like,
She said she dreamed of it at night, this horrible dream, and then the next day she started writing the novel.
At least she wrote it instead of tried to do it. I mean,
yeah.
Well, that's
And then
the literary bent, you know.
Yeah, exactly. That is actually a great cover up if you are a psycho killer, that you present yourself as a writer.
I think that's a story somewhere too. Like, I'm writing this murder mystery.
It's funny you should mention that, Jeff.
Oh, are you writing that, Mike?
Yeah.
That's what Mike is. This is his,
remind me not to visit you at
his autobiography.
No, it's for a friend of mine who's an actor.
Oh.
Oh.
Do tell.
It was his idea.
Wow, that's cool. Sometimes actors have good ideas.
Sometimes.
Well, I mean, most of the time they have an idea, and then it's like they need someone like Mike to run with it and make it a great idea. You know?
Yeah.
Well, some actors can actually write, but most can't. There's an old phrase in Hollywood called "stupid as an actor."
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
and sometimes
their job is to lie on camera. That's their job.
Yeah. Well, and some of the stuff too is because they get stereotyped, that like I don't know if Mike ever saw that, but there was a terrorist movie where they took over a bus, where they had like a bus and then with a bunch of kids, and they were gonna like blow it up and stuff. And it was actually created by Steve Martin. And
wow. Was that Speed? Was that Speed?
No, it wasn't Speed. It was something else. And no,
Washington?
I don't think it was Siege. No, I think it was one. I think the main actor who was trying to stop it was black or something. And it was not like, I mean, it did okay at the theater. It wasn't like a huge hit or whatever. But he didn't, and I don't even know. I think he got some kind of credit. But he was like, yeah, I had this idea, and usually he doesn't even have those kinds of ideas, but he kind of.
Yeah, it's called Traitor.
Oh, yes.
Stars Don Cheadle.
Yes. Yeah, and it's actually supposed to be pretty good. I have not seen it, but I was like really shocked when I saw this thing where they were just talking about the stuff, and they were like, and Steve Martin, it was like, what?
Yeah.
It was crazy. Yeah, they were doing, I don't even remember where it was. They were doing somebody was doing an interview with him, and he had like a mobile home on the side of like a canyon or something. And it was just
sounds terrifying.
I think he was trying to act like that's where he lived, like it was kind of a joke.
Yeah.
But
it was a joke.
But I was like, that's a pretty extreme joke to get that thing way up there and do that. But yeah, I was like, and that's where like I've had ideas that that wouldn't necessarily fit into my realm or what people know that I do, and even I have I've done a bunch of different like Christian stuff, and I know that some of the stuff is like they would not, a lot of those fans that are more churchy and don't realize like how violent the Bible and things actually are.
Yeah. Crucifixion. I mean, come on.
Watch the movies.
Yeah. It's like they would I don't think they'd be too crazy about some of them, but yeah. It's go ahead.
I was gonna say I had a funny story where I was set up at a farmer's market, and now I do comics, but I bake bake bread. I make hot sauce from scratch. And so a lot of times when I do shows, I'll just change up my table. So like if I do Comic Cons, it's 90% comic related and then 10% like hot sauce and maybe cookies. But then I'm at the farmer's market. It's like, it's food items. I'll do a lot of food items, but I still have those comics there. Right.
Yeah.
And so I had someone at a farmer's market come up and they're like, I look at the hot sauce and then they're like, what's this? And I was like, oh, it's a comic book that I write. And it's a Western apocalypse. I started giving him the elevator pitch and he had it in his hand. And I don't know what it was that I said that triggered him, but he was like, I like Westerns, but I like the Bible better, and put it back. And I was like, oh,
That's
okay.
funny.
You know, there are Westerns that are very biblical.
Yeah.
I actually take from the book of Revelation. I talk about the pale rider being the fourth horseman of the apocalypse.
Right.
And then the further we get into the story, there is a spiritual aspect to it. St. Jude is the patron saint of lost causes. So I'm naming things, you know, like if you look into what I name people and what I reference, there's a whole spiritual side to the story. I try not to clobber people over the head with it, but it's there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean,
it's like, okay.
Did either of you see American Primeval?
I have not seen that yet.
I
heard good stuff about
recently started it. I haven't gotten too far yet.
Is it good? I've heard good things.
It's fabulous, but it takes on the Mormon Church, and it is not complimentary. I couldn't believe they did it. I couldn't believe how they presented Brigham Young. You got to see it to believe it.
Wow.
To watch that. I have a long list of things to watch. I just don't have a lot of time.
We all
to watch
do.
them.
We all do. I'm finishing up Cobra Kai.
I'm like behind 2 seasons on that. I'm like, dang it.
Well, the last 2 seasons are insane.
Yeah.
Great. I look forward to it.
It sounds like it from the stuff
you know,
I've heard.
and what I have to thing I have to say is their fight choreography is laughable.
I mean,
yeah,
it's always kind of been it's Karate Kid, but yeah, I mean, you still have a soft space in your heart for it because it's
because the drama
80s,
is very good. It's a melodrama.
Yeah.
Who was I was on a show a couple of weeks ago where one of the hosts knows Ralph Macchio. I was like, oh, he was like, yeah, I hung out with him like a couple of weeks ago. He's a cool guy. And I was like, well, okay.
He still looks young.
Which one?
He still looks young.
He does.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
He does. But he said, yeah, I know his dad. His dad's in his 80s and looks like he's in his 60s. So it's in his, genes that he looks this young.
I swear, I still love him and My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah, it's a great movie. And
he did. I have to see that again.
He did so great in that.
Mm-hmm. Marissa Tomei was great in that.
Oh yeah. That was where she
that
was where she really broke out.
Mm-hmm.
Especially who's the tough guy actor?
Joe Pesci.
Joe Pesci.
Yeah.
Great.
Did you know that Joe Pesci used to hang out with the Four Seasons? He was good pals with them. And he's in that movie, Jersey Boys. That's a musical based on the life of the Four Seasons.
Right.
Well, you know who the Four Seasons are, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember him being in that movie. Well, again, I haven't seen it in a long time, so.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. He's the short one.
Yeah, he's always the short one.
He's always it doesn't matter what movie he's in. Short one.
Yeah. He'd make a good undead cowboy, I think.
I got lots of places I could put him in this series for sure.
Yeah, it could be like an appetizer. No.
We have a lot of disgruntled undead. We'll just put it that way.
Well, it depends on how long they've been undead. I mean, we're not going to eat an undead person who's been out for a week.
Ew. Eating people. Eating undead people. Gross.
Well,
eating undead animals. Gross.
If you introduce some cannibals.
There are cannibals at some point in the story.
Yeah, that's what she was saying. Yeah.
But it's very subtle, and I think it does. Again, if you're not paying attention, you might miss it. But there's a whole group of them that our protagonist finds himself there, and he thinks it's one thing and it's something else. But it's not like the main part of the story. It's just kind of a side note. Like, what are they eating?
Yeah. I wonder. I was going to ask you how far you were willing to go with the gore.
Pretty far.
Yeah.
First issue, we maul a horse with an undead bear. So,
do you hear that, PETA? You hear that, PETA?
Sorry. I know we got undead forever dogs. We got undead puppies. People are like, have you killed children? I was like, no, we haven't killed children. I was like, oh yeah, no, we did that in issue 5. Nobody's safe kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we go pretty far with that gore factor. Again, it's like there's no eating, but you're
Right.
gonna see people, I mean, that are just they're burnt to death. They're crispy and they're walking around, you know, and it's like trying to imagine what they sound like talking.
Yeah.
So there's that, you know, you have undead animals, you have undead everything. So the body horror is there.
Yeah.
A psychological horror of watching your loved one, you know, decline physically, mentally. Dementia terrifies me. So that's, you know, one of the things that's ongoing theme of this story is losing your humanity, and how do you deal with that? Like,
so will any of the money from the crowdfunding campaign go to your therapy?
Writing the story is my therapy, and I apologize to everybody because if it's traumatized me, it's in the story, and I'm going to traumatize you too.
Yeah, nice. So when does your campaign end?
It ends February 28th for
Okay.
issue 6. Like I said, it's a great time to get involved because there's the 12 issue arc. There's 1 through 6. There is issue 7, which is my absolute favorite in this arc. And then there's everything that happens after that. And so if you like, we have catch up tiers, of course. If you get caught up on the story, when you get to issue 7, you'll be prepared for what I'm going to hit you with. So,
would you like to show the trailer?
Sure, we can.
Right,
sorry, Pops.
I have it queued up. Just a second.
Oh, this is
there we go.
This is so beautiful, Mike getting techie. I love it.
I know.
Oh, not that trailer.
No.
The one on the campaign is the better one. That one's that one is fun. It's like me walking around inside the I mean, we can show that one if you want, but
well, no. Why don't you bring the one up you want to show? Do you know how to present it?
Yeah, let me go to. Give me 1 second because I can find my video files. Go into see how quickly I can find it. I make a lot of shorts and reels. I think it's this one here.
She's a hip modern creator.
Let's see if that works. Nope, this is the wrong one. That was the one from that was the bloopers from last issue. Some of the videos I make are silly, where I dress up as characters from previous issues. That was welcome video. That's not it. We might have to edit this part out.
Yeah, we can put it in later. It's fine. If you videos. Want it.
That's it. There we go.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. I can tell which one. Why is it being jumpy? I don't like that.
Are you on the AOL?
No.
They're dramatic. They're pregnant pauses.
Yes. It's terrible. Why is it doing this? Was it jumpy the whole way?
Pretty much. We can stick it in there.
I wonder if because when I stopped my camera, I think it got better. I think it's just because my PC is trying to do so many things. Bummer.
Yeah. Well, you can send me this, and I'll stick it in there.
Okay.
So it looks good, and I'll cut out
like,
cut out all our complaining.
Dang it. So that's the new video. I got a bunch of videos, but
Okay. Cool. Where is there anywhere you like people to follow you online or anything? Or do you have did I see on there you had a website for it or something?
I do. So of course, if you're finding this while the campaign is live up to February 28th, please come, check out the Kickstarter campaign for Path of the Pale Rider 1 through 6. We as independent creators, this is the most important time for us. These campaigns guarantee that we can continue making new stories, new content at a high quality and making sure our artists get paid. So that's, of course, please go there. A lot of the things that I have that are exclusive can only be found on the Kickstarter, like the hot sauce, the Funko Pops, the wooden covers and stuff like that. So that's where you would want to go anyway when we're live. If we're not live, I do have a website. It's pathofthe-pale-rider.com. I have digital downloads available on chartercomics.com. I have a publisher in the UK, ASAP Imagination. And so you can actually get our trade paperback 1 through 4 shipped internationally if you go through that collection. I do have a link on the Kickstarter for that. And so if you're international and I don't ship to you, but you can get the trade paperback anywhere in the world from ordering it from anyoneworld.com.
Cool.
I'm on all sorts of social media. I'm on Facebook. We have a group that's a lot of fun. That's where you get to name undead puppies and see all the new exclusives, the new add-ons, and like that's where it all drops first. So the group is again Path of the Pale Rider. But I'm on Instagram at Laurie Calcaterra. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Threads. I'm on X. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on all the things. So I'm very easy to find. I have several podcasts. I host the Tuesday Morning Brew on the Madness Comic Network. So that's Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I interview other creators, artists, novelists, musicians. I had a ventriloquist on one time. That was awesome.
Did he show his face? Or did he just talk?
It was a young lady. She was 14 and she played music. And she also built her own puppets and did ventriloquism. It was one of the best shows I've been on. It was so much fun.
Wow.
Sandy Nesbitt is her name. She's great. And I also host a show on Wednesdays. That's with my publisher in the UK. And that one's called Any One World Showcase. It's the letter N, the letter E, the number 1 showcase. So Any One World Showcase. And then every other Friday, I have a show called Killer Karen, which is an intentional dumpster fire. And I dress up as I put on a blonde wig. I take on the Karen personality. And independent creators can come on and spar verbally with Karen and try to show off their projects. And she's
try to show them off.
Challenge. I mean, we let you. Of course, you get to promote, but she's gonna challenge you because we have a fun time. They're also chaotic and different. And that's short. They're like 30 minutes, 35 minutes in and out,
Yeah.
So you can find me there too.
Wow. Too busy.
I know. You're like, and this is why Laurie doesn't watch movies, because I'm doing this and I'm writing, and I'm excited for 2025. It'll be my year where I have one, two, I think 3, 4 other projects with my name on it besides Path of the Pale Rider. Big Dog Inc. Did an anthology that I just got last week with my name on it. I had written one of the 3 stories in there. There's a Cthulhu Invades Fairyland that's coming this year. Another big anthology. I got to write a 14-pager in there. Terry Parr does a series called Gemini Force, which is like way outside my wheelhouse, right? Because it's like horror and westerns, and that's kind of, again, you get typecast, right?
Yeah.
And Terry Parr's series is like 2 cloned 80s rockers in space.
Yeah, sounds like a Mike Barron thing.
It's a ton of fun, but it's like way different than what I'm used to writing. So I had a blast. So that'll probably be coming out this year. And I'm writing another series with another creator called Psycho Sal, which is like an 80s slasher in New Orleans. So that one's really horrific. Lots of body horror gore in that one, more so than even Path at times. So
wow.
I've been busy doing my thing. We're going to continue doing Path. We should be doing issue 7 this summer. We'll probably run a campaign for issue 8 in the fall, maybe release that one, right in the beginning of 2026. And then we'll be campaigning for our next trade paperback, 5 through 8. So
cool.
Stay busy.
Staying busy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There isn't any other way, right? Got to.
You start undeading if you're not busy.
I get bored. And then I come up with new ideas, and that's a problem. And then I start doing things like I rebind books and the big sourdough bread. I have a problem. Too many hobbies, Mike.
Okay. Well, we can cut it here because I know Mike has to go because he's so popular.
I got another podcast coming up.
Yeah.
But listen, I'll leave the window open so you can upload.
Cool.
All right.
Sounds good.
It was great having you, Laurie. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. It was wonderful to meet you. I've been in the same circle, and I've been watching you. This is great to finally, come together and be on a podcast together. Thank you.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Right.
Yep. I guess I'm just gonna